The sun rose gently over the meadows of Tau Ceti 4, casting long amber rays across the learning gardens of Colony Arcadia. Children played with floating hollow balls and laughed as robotic tutors mimicked animal calls from Earth. The colony had known only peace, its walls unscarred by war, its skies silent except for the occasional freight vessel. The settlers believed they had found sanctuary among the stars, far from the broken treaties and ancient grudges of the galaxy. Then the sky turned black. At first it was a shadow, a passing eclipse, perhaps, but the sun did not return. Dozens of sleek, obsidian vessels pierced the clouds, their hulls etched with the sigils of the Galactic Empire. Panic did not erupt immediately. After all, the Empire had not violated its treaty with Earth in over a decade. But when the first pulse bombs exploded, silent, violet pulses that vaporized the communications array and vaporized the colony's defensive drones, every parent, teacher, and child understood the truth. There would be no negotiations. Vortak the Purifier emerged from the lead vessel, a towering insectoid with polished chitin armor and a reputation for scorched earth compliance. No declaration of war, no demand for surrender, only orders relayed through neural comlinks. Eliminate all sentient organisms and leave no remains. He watched without emotion as his enforcers descended on the school buildings, their plasma lances cleaving through walls, their neuroscramblers disabling fleeing adults mid-run. Children were corralled, not for mercy, but for efficiency. A single drone broadcast a massacre live across the system. Let Earth witness the price of disobedience, Vortak hissed, his mandibles clicking in satisfaction. Across Earth, the footage arrived unfiltered. A school dome collapsing on tiny bodies. A child holding their sibling's hand as they were consumed by fire. The broadcast ended with Vortak staring into the camera. Your seeds are dust. Submit or perish. Grief bled into fury. Humanity had known loss. But this was desecration. Global mourning gave way to a storm of rage. Unified councils, long divided by politics and profit, convened in silence. For the first time in generations, the flags of Earth's fractured nations were lowered together. Billions watched as Earth's president uttered only 4 words. Contact Phantom Wind. Immediately, there had been ghosts in the system for years, spoken of in classified corridors and war rooms. The sniper unit codenamed Phantom Wind had no medals, no public dossiers. Only results, formed from the ashes of earlier wars, trained off-grid, and equipped with prototype tech, so advanced it was whispered the AI-assisted scopes could pierce solid rock. These were not standard infantry. They did not fight wars. They ended them. Captain Myra Voss answered the call without hesitation. She stood alone in a wind-battered valley when a message came through, her camo cloak blending with the red dust like an apparition. Her face bore no insignia, but her eyes told stories. She had once been a war orphan, rescued from the ruins of Titan's civil uprising. Her family reduced in numbers in a military ledger. Raised by the program that built Phantom Wind, Myra knew better than anyone what loss cost, and she remembered every face the Empire had burned into her memory. She gathered her team with the precision of a scalpel slicing open old wounds. Lieutenant Sora Jane, sniper biologist, could calculate wind resistance and alien nerve cluster trajectories before her finger even twitched. Corporal Hex Ramirez, ex-hacker turned lethal Overwatch, interfaced with enemy surveillance systems mid-shot. And Elias Tsu, the silent marksman whose kill count rivaled orbital bombardments. His grudge against the Empire traced back to a destroyed lunar outpost, now a graveyard. They didn't need convincing. The footage alone had sufficed. The mission parameters were clear. No capture, no quarter. Every Imperial officer, general, and supply chain leader connected to the Tau Ceti massacre was now marked. And not with a bullet. They would be erased with surgical violence. Each execution would carry a message, a whisper in the void. You killed our children. Now we come for yours. There was no cheering in their war room. No toast or flag raising. Just silence, sharpened like a blade. They moved without fanfare, launched in stealth crafts coated in adaptive plating that rendered them phantoms in the Empire's sky. They did not request permission. Earth didn't offer oversight. This was not diplomacy. It was vengeance, distilled to cold, merciless calculation. As their ship slipped past the first ring of Imperial border drones, Myra checked her rifle one last time, her breath slow, eyes scanning not the stars, but the names etched into her rifle, children's names, burned into it by her own hand. She did not whisper prayers. There was no God in the vacuum of space, only crosshairs and the promise they held. She looked at her team, massed in silence and purpose. "No more signals," she said. "From here on, the Empire only hears screams." A nod. The last light of Earth flickered behind them. War had not been declared. It had been answered. The surface of Kepler. 186F shimmered under its dim red sun, a dead world of ash dunes and abandoned mining colonies. It had once hosted Imperial refueling outposts, now little more than skeletons of alloy and concrete, silent witnesses to the war machine's reach. That silence was broken by the faint whine of high-altitude wind and the cold, measured breath of a sniper taking aim. Captain Myra Voss lay motionless atop a collapsed tower, her cloaking veil flickering like heat haze. The breath between heartbeats became eternity. 600 meters below, two Imperial officers argued beside a convoy of fusion tanks, unaware that one of them had only seconds left to live. The crosshairs rested on the taller one, an architect of logistics who rerouted medical supplies from Earth-aligned colonies to starve them into submission. Myra knew his face well. She remembered the footage of mothers holding stillborn infants in oxygen-starved clinics. The shot was silent, immediate, one heartbeat, and the officer's skull ruptured, no warning, no echo. His colleague blinked, confused, before dropping beside the corpse in panic. Already, the team was moving. Myra didn't speak as she descended through the ruins. Her voice belonged to the rifle now. Below, Elias Tsu waited among the rusted girders, calm as stone, eyes watching the Imperial convoy scatter like ants. He moved only to place a decoy drone on a ledge, broadcasting Imperial commands in a loop to sow further chaos. He didn't gloat. There was no satisfaction in killing, only balance. The second shot came from Lieutenant Sora Jane, perched atop a weathered silo. Her rifle's barrel was custom-fitted with atmospheric compensators, calculating wind, temperature, and even planetary rotation before the trigger clicked. Her target, a logistics technician, collapsed over a datapad, never seeing the glint of the scope that sealed his fate. In under 6 minutes, 3 Imperial command nodes were dismantled, their coordination severed, and 2 transport units hijacked. No trace was left, save for a message etched into a titanium wall with a laser scalpel. "We see you." News of the strike reached the Empire's upper echelons before the sun had set. Panic, though unspoken, threaded its way through command channels. How had the humans bypassed their defenses? No ships detected, no scans triggered, just sudden death from unseen angles. Vortak dismissed the reports at first, psychological warfare, he said. Ghost stories invented by trembling underlings. But as the casualty list grew, even his certainty began to fracture. In an encrypted bunker 3 light years away, the sniper team regrouped. No base names, no coordinates spoken aloud, just shadows beneath steel. "Myra," said Hex Ramirez, flicking through the hack surveillance feeds. "They're rerouting 3 governors off Vargon Prime. Think they're scared of ghosts." "They should be," she replied, eyes cold. "Ghosts don't ask questions." Hex grinned, but there was tension beneath the smirk. He was younger than the others, a cyber prodigy from New Manila who could make Imperial satellites sing nursery rhymes. But every hack he launched came with risks. The Empire's AI defenses were learning, and Hex had begun dreaming of fire. Sora wiped carbon residue from her rifle without looking up. They're starting to mask their thermals. Camouflage in spectrum ranges humans aren't even supposed to see. "We're not humans," Tsu muttered. That silenced the room, because they all understood. The moment they accepted this mission, something human had been left behind. Not honor, not loyalty, but mercy. Earth had no place for it now. Not after Tau Ceti 4. Later that cycle, they hit a comms relay on a jungle moon near Zorak Belt. The operation lasted only 90 seconds. 7 snipers positioned in concentric rings. Not a single shot wasted. Every body fell in precise, rehearsed ballet of execution. One Imperial officer managed to draw a breath for a scream, only for it to be silenced by a micro-drone that cut his throat mid-note. They left behind a crude hologram. Footage of laughing children from Tau Ceti 4 looped endlessly in grayscale. Every Imperial worker who stumbled across the message vomited before calling for backup. Within weeks, the Empire's morale plummeted. Whole supply lines rerouted. Starship launches delayed. High-ranking officials refused to travel without armed escorts. The fear wasn't just of death. It was of dying unseen, without warning, without reason. The snipers never announced themselves. No threats, no ultimatums, only precision and silence. One day, Tsu received word of an old friend, an officer turned smuggler, murdered by the Empire for sheltering a human refugee. He did not ask for permission. Myra did not stop him. The next strike was personal. A barge orbiting Urax. Tsu exploded without warning, its course sabotaged at a single weak point only a sharpshooter like Tsu would know. He stood at the observation deck, watching the debris drift into vacuum. For someone who once gave me bread, he whispered. The others didn't speak of it again. After that, the team operated in tighter sync. Hex embedded false intelligence in Imperial channels, suggesting the attacks were random. Sora studied alien behavioral patterns, mapping out decision points before they happened. Myra planned each mission like a funeral. She had stopped using code names for targets. Now they had numbers. Names were too personal, and she'd already buried enough names. Eventually, Vortak convened a secret summit of his top warlords. He demanded answers. Are they using cloaking drives? Advanced teleportation? Internal sabotage? But none of the data fit. The Empire had fought wars against hive fleets, machine empires, time-fractured mercenaries. Yet nothing unnerved them like this. Human snipers, crawling through dust and steel, dragging the Empire into the dark one trigger pull at a time. The summit ended with Vortak ordering the deployment of anti-ghost countermeasures, sensor swarms, kinetic drone clouds, artificial psychic barriers. He poured trillions into the project. 3 weeks later, his chief engineer was shot through 3 meters of reinforced shielding. The slug entered just beneath the eye. No alarms, no breach detected. Only the words carved onto his office wall in his own blood. We are not at war. We are vengeance. And in that moment, the Empire realized this wasn't a retaliation campaign. It was a hunt, and they were already bleeding. The first sign of escalation wasn't a sniper's bullet. It was a silence that followed a failed ambush on the orbital shipyard of Tarsus. 5. The Empire had set a trap. Rumors of a high-ranking admiral visiting the sector were carefully leaked. Bait dangled in unsecured chatter. The sniper team took notice. Everything about the pattern felt intentional, but they had learned to risk control for opportunity. The death of an admiral would paralyze the northern fleets. After all, when Myra's boots touched the hull of the abandoned scaffolding above the shipyard, she could feel the rawness in the silence. Her rifle rested against her shoulder, scope tuned to ultraviolet. 100 meters away, Elias was already in position, watching from a gap in the bulkhead. Sora scanned the thermal feed. Nothing. No foot traffic. No power surges. Just too clean emptiness. Then something blinked. Not a sensor. Not a light. A reflection, brief, artificial, like a mirrored lens behind a screen of camouflage. Myra's instinct screamed. Break. Now, she hissed. The sniper team scattered seconds before a kinetic blast tore through the scaffolding, shredding metal into spinning razors. Anti-personnel drones swarmed the corridors. Their AI rigged not a chase, but a herd, pushed them toward kill boxes. Hex, deeper inside the structure, sent a panic pulse through the encrypted comms line. Fingers flying across his neural interface to force a temporary blackout across the shipyard's grid. The lights died, plunging the battlefield into blackness. A second later, Myra flipped her scope to night vision and dropped 3 drones with precise, silent shots. She wasn't breathing fear. She was breathing calculation. The ambush had been a gamble, but confirmed one truth. The Empire was adapting. This was no longer a war surprise. It It was evolving into a war of attrition. And for once, the Empire was learning fast. Sora dragged Hex through a side conduit, a grazed wound smoking on her shoulder. He was coughing blood, one lung punctured by shrapnel. "We need evac," she barked. "No ships," Myra replied. "We go silent. Ghost protocol." Sue, who had stayed behind on the outer perimeter, rerouted a maintenance tunnel remotely. When the team emerged an hour later, covered in grime and static charges, they didn't speak. Not about the failed mission. Not about Hex's wound. Myra stitched him in silence, her hand steady as she forced a med-gel into torn muscle. They had survived. Barely. But the illusion of superiority had cracked. Later, as Hex slept, Myra stared at the stars beyond their hidden medical nest. "They've stopped fearing us," she said aloud. "No," Sora replied, sitting cross-legged nearby. "They've started understanding us." The thought chilled her more than any plasma rifle ever could. In the weeks that followed, the team went dark. No strikes. No transmissions. The Empire relaxed, at least on the surface. Vortak declared their silence a victory. "Terror," he proclaimed to his subordinates, "can only burn for so long before it devours its wielder." But deep inside the sniper team's encrypted vault, the silence was not surrender. It was metamorphosis. They had realized brute precision was no longer enough. The Empire had begun masking its leadership, fragmenting data, hiding key personnel beneath layers of bureaucratic shells and synthetic clones. If they were to continue the hunt, the team needed more than bullets. They needed intelligence. Deep, buried, rotting under the layers of Imperial security, like a dying root. So they called in a ghost from Myra's past. He came in silence, as all phantoms do. Code name, Kestrel. Once her mentor, now a rogue operator who had vanished from Earth's command structure a decade earlier. No one knew where he'd gone. Only that wherever he had been, it had changed him. He wore no uniform. Spoke in whispers. His eyes, once sharp and cruel, now held the stillness of someone who had watched too many truths rot. "You want inside their heart," he said. "Then stop aiming at their head." He revealed a data trail. Scraps of intercepted transmissions. Hints of secret Imperial vault buried beneath Vero Prime. A core world never struck. Never even mentioned on most star maps. It was there, he said, that the Empire stored the names, operational directives, family records, blackmail files, and lineage ties. Every official the snipers had killed had a successor lined up, faceless, untraceable, until now. Sue looked over the files and gave a rare grunt of approval. This is how you bleed them. Hex, still recovering, leaned on Sora as he reconnected with their remote systems. "We won't kill a general next," he muttered. "We'll erase a dynasty." Myra said nothing at first. She stared at the transmission logs. Coordinates that didn't exist, encryption older than anything in Earth's databases. If this was a trap, it was a masterwork. "We go in," she finally said, "but not to kill." Everyone stared. "We go in to steal everything. Every truth, every secret. We'll make the Empire transparent." Even the thought sounded heretical. A government founded on fear and shadow, stripped naked before the galaxy? Sue nodded. They made the mistake of slaughtering children. We'll make the mistake of showing the galaxy why. And just like that, the team's mission evolved. Not vengeance, not justice, exposure. They trained for a month in silence, learning new infiltration paths, synchronizing neural interfaces, upgrading rifles with dampening systems, and cloaking fields calibrated to Imperial spectrums. They simulated every floor of the Vero Vault 100 times. They grew leaner, quieter, sharper. When they left their hideout, it was with one final transmission sent from an untraceable relay on the edge of Orion Sector. No name, no threats, just a child's voice, recorded from a Tau Ceti classroom, asking, "Why do stars go out?" There was no reply. But across the Empire's core systems, command centers went into lockdown. Elite guards deployed. Sensors scanned every dust particle. The vault was sealed with 5 layers of defense and 6 protocols of lethal fail-safes. And still, the sniper team approached. not with noise, but with the silence that always comes before the shatter. Because this wasn't the end of their mission. It was the beginning of the Empire's reckoning. The descent into Viral Prime began beneath the crimson sky, its twin suns bleeding light across the clouds like torn arteries. The sniper team approached the vault through a tectonic fault, a wound in the planet's crust that pulsed with geothermal heat and electromagnetic static. Perfect cover against sensors. Myra led, her rifle folded and secured to her back, her eyes locked on the HUD flickering inside her visor. Every heartbeat was measured, every breath counted. They moved without conversation. Words were luxuries. Each step was stitched into pre-mapped choreography. Sue managing counter-surveillance pulses, Sora mapping underground resonance to avoid pressure plates, Hex bleeding interference into the vault security algorithms like a ghost threading its way into the walls. The silence between them wasn't fear. It was bond, hardened by losses, sharpened by purpose. Inside, the Empire's great secret beat like a mechanical heart. The vault wasn't a single room, but a descending spiral, miles deep, data pillars the size of towers, bio-locked archive gates humming with alien encryption. Within these files were names, real names, of the Empire's upper elite, governors, warlords, shipmasters. But more than that, lies. Entire genocides rewritten, slave labor documented and scrubbed. The massacre of human colonies not as errors, but as policy. They reached the lowest vault chamber in just under 30 minutes. No alarms, no contact. Hex cracked the last firewall with sweat beating down his temple. We're inside, he breathed. The interface before them sprang to life. No buttons, just biometric readers and echo-sensitive light fields. Myra placed her hand against the pulse reader. The system stuttered. Hex fed it a DNA spoof packet. Sue timed the pulse rhythm against her heartbeat. Sora watched the exit. The door side open. Inside, holographic archives flickered like stars frozen in time. Everything the sniper team had hoped to find. More. Myra's eyes moved across the floating names, and she felt the weight of 1,000 dead children pressing into her spine. It wasn't just evidence. It was intent. Orders signed by hand. Whole villages labeled as containment breaches. Names of Earth diplomats who had been secretly executed for negotiation betrayal. This was the Empire's soul, raw and bleeding. They began the transfer. While the core copied to Hex's black box drive, Sora inserted an encryption bomb, silent, invisible. In 12 hours, the entire archive would collapse on itself. A memory implosion. But that wasn't their goal. The real strike was in the copy. They would broadcast the truth to every outer colony, every disillusioned Imperial officer, every soldier with a conscience left. But the Empire wasn't asleep. The lights flickered. Hex's voice cracked. Movement above us. They found us. Myra's voice remained calm. How many? Hex scanned. Too many. Sue lifted his rifle. Then we buy time. The chamber had one entrance. Narrow. Choke point. It would be a blood corridor. Myra turned to Sora. Take Hex and run the data to the surface. We hold here. No, Sora snapped. You're not making this call alone. I already did, Myra said. Now go. But the argument never finished. The first tremor hit the vault wall like a hammer, and through the dust stepped Imperial commandos, Vortax personal hounds, their armor coated in shifting camo plates, weapons glistening with charged particles. The first shot belonged to Tsu. It struck the lead soldier through the eye. Then came the hailstorm. Myra dropped 3 more, her bullets carved through reinforced suits like scalpels. Sora dragged Hex toward the back exit. The black box clenched in his hands like a heart. Tsu stood in the breach, unmoving, a statue of precision and inevitability. Don't stop running, he whispered to no one and everyone. The vault became a crucible. Myra knew they wouldn't all leave. She didn't want to. She had seen too many lives ended without justice. If hers would tip the balance, it was a trade she welcomed. Hex and Sora emerged onto the surface through a geothermal shaft seconds before it collapsed behind them. Smoke billowed into the sky. Sirens echoed from distant ridges. They didn't stop running until the exfiltration pod rose like a silent angel from the dust, triggered by their final emergency beacon. Inside, as the pod broke orbit, Hex cried. Not from pain, but from the unbearable knowledge of what stayed behind. Sora held the drive to her chest. They gave us the truth, she said. And now, Hex whispered, we give it to the galaxy. 2 standard days later, the vault's data flooded every known communications array. Not a single announcement. No passwords. No firewalls. Just files. Audio. Video. Orders. Executions. Genocides. It was everywhere at once. And for the first time, the Empire couldn't hide. Entire fleets mutinied. Colonial governors went silent. Human resistance movements exploded with support. Even Imperial citizens began to question everything. The sniper team had done what no invasion could. They stripped away the veil. The Empire bled not from weapons, but from its truth being set on fire. In a dark room on a shattered moon, Myra's name was whispered, not as a martyr, not even as a hero, but as a beginning, because the war hadn't ended. It had evolved.